What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next NFL mock draft. So I said this was it for mock drafts for 2016, which is sort of true. But I wanted to do my way too early 2017 NFL mock draft. This is just purely for fun. Talking about early speculation, who I think is going to go where, and just some of the bigger names for the 2017 NFL draft. Again, I know this is stupid early, but I'm obviously not the only one to have done this also. So just before I get into it, I want to say that obviously there's no set draft order yet. I got my draft order off walterfootball.com, and got my inspiration for the picks based off about 5 things. One is obviously my own intuition of the football players ahead of time. 2 is the situations of the NFL teams as I know them right now after the 2016 NFL draft. 3 is obviously the other early 2017 NFL mock drafts that I have seen so far. 4 is who I think will declare early, and then 5 is obviously the seniors who are leaving anyway. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. So to me, I think I already know who the number 1 pick is going to be, barring injury, or like a devastating year, like just a bad year. All right, so that looked like I was jerking off. I'm trying to fix the pointer on my computer. Just wanted to say that ahead of time. Okay, so if I can fix this. Go ahead and start with the number 1 pick. I have the Cleveland Browns selecting the quarterback out of Clemson, and that is Deshaun Watson. So Deshaun Watson, this will be his junior year. To me, he is the best I've mentioned this in a lot of videos. He's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. I think someone asked me if I thought Jameis Winston was a better prospect than Deshaun Watson. And to be honest, I don't think so. I get it that a lot of people think Deshaun Watson is overhyped to some degree, just because people are already pretty much locking him in as the number 1 pick. But you got to realize the turnaround this guy had from a injured sophomore year. Actually, no, that was injured freshman year. How Clemson was that year in 2014 based off a full healthy year with Clemson in 2015 when he was missing actually a lot of weapons on offense, missing Deion Kane for the entirety of the college football playoff, was missing Mike Williams for the entirety of the season. So I think the Cleveland Browns need a new quarterback. Obviously, they need a new direction to go in. Cody Kessler is not going to be that guy. We'll see if RG3 works out. If he does show to return to the 2012 form, which I don't see happening, then obviously I don't think this will happen. But assuming all things that I'm assuming right now with the way the Browns are headed into this year with a complete rebuilding project under Hugh Jackson, I think Deshaun Watson is the right direction to take that. So number 2, I got the San Francisco 49ers selecting the quarterback out of Miami, Brad Kaaya. Brad Kaaya and Deshaun Watson are the 2 best quarterback prospects in this draft, at least from right now. The Niners need a new quarterback, and they can snag one of the 2 best of this class in what I think is going to be, or what I think is right now, an underrated quarterback class. Some people were talking about being a thin quarterback class this next year, and compared to 2016, I think this is a stacked quarterback class. When you're talking about 2016, you're looking at guys like Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Paxton Lynch, only one of which was a big-time prospect heading into the year, and that was Jared Goff. So at number 3, I got the Tennessee Titans selecting the defensive end out of Texas A&M, Myles Garrett. I really like the fit here. The Titans did take a decent amount of pass rushing in this past draft, but there's no one that they have on their roster that's near as talented as Myles Garrett. He might be the overall best player in this class or most talented. He has been a great defensive end in college football for a couple years now. And again, I think the Titans are just a team rebuilding right now that will eventually hit that level of contending again in about 2 or 3 years. They're building it up right now, obviously selecting Mariota last year, being able to bring in Jack Conklin this year, and obviously throwing in a few talented options. I don't know where that sound came from, but anyway, throwing in a few talented options aside from Marcus Mariota, including DeMarco Murray. So, time to build up the defense, in my opinion. It wasn't very good last year, and I don't see it being very good again this year. Probably a little bit improved, but not by much. So, Number 4, I got the Miami Dolphins taking the cornerback out of Florida, Jalen Tabor. Now, out of all these picks, this is one of my favorites. I mentioned this a lot with Vernon Hargreaves when I had him going to the Dolphins this year. I said that Vernon Hargreaves was just a great fit. The Dolphins do still need a corner. They would have picked one up in the first round probably if Laramie Tunsil hadn't fallen to him. But Jalen Tabor is the best cornerback prospect in this class for right now. And again, Florida boy gets to stay in Florida, so win-win there. So at number 5, I got the Tennessee Titans selecting the offensive tackle out of Alabama, Cam Robinson. Cam Robinson is the best offensive lineman prospect in this draft. Titans decided not to take Laramie Tunsil in this draft. They did get Jack Conklin, but I still think they need a little bit more help along the offensive line to seal it up for Marcus Mariota in the future. If they're able to get Myles Garrett and Cam Robinson, those are 2 key players that I think will be able to help that rebuild and give maybe that final push they need to start contending again. So at number 6, I got the San Diego Chargers selecting the wide receiver out of USC, Juju Smith-Schuster. So the Chargers need some help with wide receiver. That's been no secret over the last couple of years. Keenan Allen is good, but he's shown to be a lot of it injury prone and a little bit inconsistent. If you want to give Phillip Rivers a chance to contend in his last few years in the league, at least last few prime years, not sure how much longer that's going to be lasting. He's heading into his, I think, 12th or 13th year in the NFL this year. And you're going to need to have some help alongside Keenan Allen to be able to help out Phillip Rivers this year. And I like the fit. California team meshes well. Juju Smith-Schuster, the best wide receiver in this draft. He's been a great threat at USC in the 2 years he's been playing there. So at number 7, I got the Cleveland Browns selecting the running back out of LSU, Leonard Fournette. So if the Browns are able to somehow pull this off, getting Deshaun Watson and Leonard Fournette in the same draft, then that completely changes the direction of that team. It goes from rebuild to contending almost automatically, at least contending for a playoff spot and turning things around very quickly. Leonard Fournette is obviously a generational talent at running back. He's the best running back in this draft, in a draft that's just absolutely stacked with running backs. And the Browns do still need a running back. They did not really pick up any big names at running back in this past draft. You're still looking at a team going with running back by committee with Isaiah Crowell, Duke Johnson, and Terrence West. Let me see if they did pick up. Anyway, yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. But if you're able to get Leonard Fournette, that automatically brings together a team where you just added Corey Coleman at receiver. So you hope that the receiving core comes along soon. And, with Deshaun Watson, Leonard Fournette, Corey Coleman, and what hopefully forms to be a decent offensive line, you still got Joe Thomas, then it should be a fantastic turnaround for the Browns. So at number 8, I got the New Orleans Saints selecting the safety / linebacker / cornerback out of Michigan, Jabrill Peppers. Jabrill Peppers might be the most versatile player in this draft. Him and Adoree Jackson are just absolute athletic freaks. The Saints need help on defense, and having a guy that can fly all over the field in Jabrill Peppers would be an absolute treat for them. They'd be able to add in a punt returner, kick returner, just a threat all over the field. So at number 9, I got the Baltimore Ravens selecting the defensive tackle out of Michigan State, Malik McDowell. So McDowell is the best defensive tackle in this draft. The Ravens did beef up the defensive line by drafting DeForest Buckner, but they still need a little bit of help at defensive tackle, and adding in Malik McDowell would put a solid anchor in the middle of that defensive line and give it a really good look heading into the future. Number 10, I got the Buffalo Bills selecting the offensive tackle out of Florida State, Roderick Johnson. Johnson's second best offensive tackle in this draft. Good upside, good athlete. Has been very solid at Florida State since I believe he came in 2014. And plugging him into a Buffalo Bills offensive line that does need a little bit of help. Whoever they decide to go with in the future, quarterback. I mean, Tyrod Taylor was running for his life this last year. And whether they're going with E.J. Manuel, Cardale Jones, Tyrod Taylor, or someone else, you need to have a solid offensive line in front of them. So at number 11, excuse me, I got the Chicago Bears selecting the running back out of Stanford, Christian McCaffrey. The Bears, I think they do have a decent option at running back right now. They have Jeremy Langford in the backfield, who did prove to be effective this year, but he's not. I don't think he's your long-term option. He is a player that will be able to play all over the field again. Offense, special teams, kicking, running on kick returns, punt returns, running back. Again, one of the most versatile players in the 2017 NFL draft. Obviously, very close to winning the Heisman this past year. Set the record for all-purpose yards in a single season. Just trying to look at what the Bears' backfield looks right now for the depth chart. Now, they do have a few options at running back. I mean, it's not like they have no depth at all. Again, Jeremy Langford's not a bad option. He honestly is a pretty big sleeper heading into this year. I'm also talking about Kadeem Carey, a solid running back out of Arizona that really hasn't gotten a chance yet. Jaquiz Rodgers, experienced running back in the NFL, and a little bit of a sleeper running back from this draft class in Jordan Howard out of Indiana. So you add in Christian McCaffrey to a team that I think will be one of the most improved teams this season. You added Cody Whitehair, should be able to protect for Jay Cutler a little bit better. A receiving core that gets back Kevin White along with Alshon Jeffrey and hopefully an Eddie Royal, and that's actually a pretty solid receiving core. So adding in Christian McCaffrey would just make that offense dangerous as hell next year. So I guess actually in 2 years. So at number 12, I got the Detroit Lions selecting the defensive end out of Alabama, Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen decided not to declare for this NFL draft. Will be one of the top defensive ends heading into this next draft, and would give the Lions a little bit of depth along the defensive line that I think they still need help with. So the Lions do have a plug up the middle with Ezekiel Ansah. I mentioned this a lot in some of my past NFL draft video or NFL mock draft videos. They still need a lot of help at the defensive line, or just all along the defensive line. This is a team that's rebuilding, I'm assuming, ever since Calvin Johnson left, and probably building around Matthew Stafford. And I don't really know what the new direction is going to be. They did add in A'Shawn Robinson during the draft and Anthony Zettel. A'Shawn Robinson might be a guy who can come in and start from day one, but you're still looking at an aging Haloti Ngata, a Devin Taylor that's not even a household name at defensive end, not even close. And you plug in Jonathan Allen, he'll be able to play. If he does beef up defensive tackle, but he's probably not big enough to play a 4-3 defensive tackle spot. Probably looking at a defensive end spot in the 4-3. But again, we'll see what happens, and I think that'd be a great fit. So at number 13, I got the Atlanta Falcons selecting the defensive end out of Tennessee, Derek Barnett. So one of the biggest needs for the Atlanta Falcons in this draft was defensive end, or just really edge rusher, and they really didn't address that need. Instead, they went with Keanu Neal and Deion Jones. Solid pickups at linebacker and safety, but they need a true defensive end to put a little bit more pressure on those NFC South quarterbacks. Derek Barnett, one of the best defensive ends in this draft, has had at least 10 sacks in his 2 seasons at Tennessee so far, and again, would be a very good fit. He could stay near Tennessee. Would still be, I think, in a situation where he could kind of be this, maybe not the star of a defense, but the attention wouldn't be all on him since he's got Vic Beasley on the other side. So at number 14, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting the defensive end / outside linebacker out of Auburn, Carl Lawson. So obviously Carl Lawson has had injury troubles in the past. He has the talent to be a top 5 pick, but he's also got the injury proneness, and I think he can stay another year at Auburn. So that's why I do have him a little bit further down the list. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do still need help along the defensive line. Noah Spence adds a little bit of help to that pass rush, but they still need someone on the opposite side. Carl Lawson would be a good fit. Number 15, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting the safety out of LSU, Jamal Adams. So Jaguars addressed a lot of needs on defense in this draft in this offseason. Now, Jalen Ramsey's probably going to end up slotting in at corner opposite of Prince Amukamara. And they did address a lot of needs at linebacker and defensive line. but I think they could use a bit of an upgraded safety. Jamal Adams, the clear-cut best safety in this draft, in my opinion, at least true safety. So at number 16, I got the Dallas Cowboys selecting the cornerback out of Iowa, Des King. So Cowboys still need help at corner. It's been a up and down spot. Well, not even an up and down. It's been a pretty weak spot on their defense last couple of years. Very weak defense last year. You add in a guy that is a proven hard worker, proven leader, and a proven talent, being named the best defensive back in the NFL and college football this past season. We'll see what happens with him this next year at Iowa, probably his last year, and should be at least a top 20 pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. So at number 17, I got the Oakland Raiders selecting the running back out of Florida State, Dalvin Cook. Now, the Raiders obviously don't trust Latavius Murray that much. I've mentioned a lot. I still think he's a talented back, but it's a Raiders running back, so his days are probably numbered. They did select Devontae Booker, but again, not a long-term fix. You can bring in a guy like Dalvin Cook that's an extremely talented running back if you put him in this draft class. He competes with Ezekiel Elliott for being the best, but instead he's in a draft class with Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette. There's a million other names, and a bunch of names that could emerge, including one of the biggest mentions this offseason is Bo Scarborough out of Alabama. Hasn't really gotten a chance to prove himself yet. But Dalvin Cook's the guy that could step into really any situation and put the team on his back. He proved that this past year at Florida State, where the passing game was just horrid at times. And I just think that Dalvin Cook can fit into any situation you put him in. He's very fast. He's a downhill runner and can get through a lot of tackles. So at number 18, I got the Minnesota Vikings selecting the linebacker out of Ohio State, Raekwon McMillan. Raekwon McMillan's a run-stopping machine. Minnesota Vikings need a little bit of help at linebacker. I think their two biggest needs for next year's draft are going to be linebacker and safety, barring how the offensive line plays this year if Matt Khalil actually has a consistent year. So at number 19, I got the Indianapolis Colts selecting the defensive end out of Missouri, Charles Harris. So Mizzou always seems to produce some linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive end that's a stud in every single draft. This past year was Kentrell Brothers. Year before that, I believe it was Coney Ely, Michael Sam, Shane Ray. You go back a while, and there's always a big name. But Indianapolis Colts did not address the pass rush need in this past draft. They decided to go for the offensive line, and this is a pass rush that is going to be anything but scary in this coming season. You got an aging Robert Mathis, Bjorn Werner that hasn't proved to do anything yet. Actually, I don't even think they let him go. So not even Bjorn Werner anymore. And then you also got Eric Walden and I believe Trent Cole. So they need to add a pass rush. I think that's going to be the immediate need in 2017 NFL draft for them. So at number 20, I get the New York Jets selecting the cornerback out of USC, Adoree Jackson. So again, mentioned him alongside Jabrill Peppers, kind of similar players, both extremely fast, extremely athletic, and extremely versatile. Again, brings the Jets a player that can slot in a corner opposite of an aging Darrell Revis that can be really the new face of the franchise on defense and gives them an option to kick return and punt return just to be a brand new special teams threat pretty much. So at number 21, I got the New York Giants selecting the linebacker out of Florida, Gerard Davis. So Giants never seemed to select a linebacker in the draft. They did have a pretty big need at cornerback, and they did fill that with Eli Apple, but didn't really fill the linebacking need. Could have gone Myles Jack or Reggie Ragland, opted not to, which is fine. It's just I think they need to bump up that linebacking core a little bit. They seem to always have a mediocre linebacking core, if that, and adding in a guy like Jared Davis that comes in and fits in that scheme automatically. It's just a great fit for the Giants. So at number 22, I got the Washington Redskins selecting the running back out of Georgia, Nick Chubb. To say the Redskins will need a running back next year, I think is a complete understatement. This is a team, again, right now with the starting running back, Matt Jones. I think the Redskins will be good this year. They have beefed up that team almost everywhere except for running back. And adding in a guy, again, like Nick Chubb that maybe if not for that knee injury, could be the second best running back in this draft. Just, again, barring injury for him this coming year, It will definitely be a first-round pick, and it could be a solid piece for Washington if Kirk Cousins can stay consistent, really forming a good offense for the future. Number 23 at the Pittsburgh Steelers, selecting the defensive end/outside linebacker out of LSU, Lewis Neal. So Lewis Neal has showed, I don't think, anything but promise and upside since he came into LSU. 8 sacks this past year, I believe, close to 50 tackles. Had a couple pass breakups as well. Again, very athletic, high upside. Pittsburgh Steelers will probably be looking pass rush first in this coming draft, basing off their needs right now and probably their needs to the future. So at number 24, I got the Denver Broncos selecting the guard out of Ohio State, Pat Elflein. I like the fit. Broncos didn't really address the offensive guard need in the draft. They had the opportunity to get Cody Whitehair and passed it, and Joshua Garnett, and passed it up for Paxton Lynch, which I do believe was a smart decision at the time. But also, they're gonna need help along the offensive line for whoever is the quarterback next year, whether it is Mark Sanchez or Paxton Lynch. So at number 25, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, Corey Davis. The Chiefs will soon need help at wide receiver. I think they kind of do right now. Jeremy Maclin is the main option right now, not really anything behind him. This is an aging offense pretty much everywhere. Jamal Charles definitely isn't getting any younger. Alex Smith is currently at 32 years old. And I think they need a guy just to come in and be a reliable target. And Corey Davis probably will be the most efficient receiver in college football this year, will put up some of the biggest stats, and is also, like I said, a very reliable receiver, runs his routes well, and actually a guy you should probably pay attention to in this coming college football season. Number 26, I got the Houston Texans selecting the tight end out of Alabama, O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard had the opportunity to declare in this draft. His stock would have been high, but it's going to be very high again in this coming draft. Him and Jordan Leggett will be the two clear-cut best tight ends, but O.J. Howard would be the best. You got to get a glimpse of him and his true potential. I think everyone did in the national championship when he brought in 2 touchdowns. He's an extremely talented, big target, very athletic, and is the type of guy to come in and have the potential to be a top 10 tight end from day one in the NFL. So at number 27, I got the New England Patriots selecting the wide receiver out of Clemson, Mike Williams. So Mike Williams did not play a single game this past season. You'll get to see the true potential of him and Deshaun Watson teaming up in this coming year, again, barring injury. I don't know if the Patriots will need an extreme amount of help at wide receiver, but right now their main option is Julian Edelman. Mike Williams adds a reliable receiver on the outside with a pair of hands that are of quality that the New England Patriots do not have right now. So at number 28, I got the Carolina Panthers selecting the cornerback out of Alabama, Marlon Humphrey. So it's anyone's guess where cornerbacks are really outside of Des King, Adoree Jackson, Jabrill Peppers, and Jalen Tabor. Marlon Humphrey, I'm assuming, is going to have a big year. Looks like he will. Played well so far at Alabama. Obviously, it's still Bama, so you expect him to play well. And the Panthers still need help at corner. They took James Bradbury to fill the need at corner that was left by Josh Norman. And again, after the way they were able to develop Josh Norman, you can't really question their ability to develop corners. But you still assume they'll need help next year in the draft. So at number 29, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting the quarterback out of Oklahoma State, Mason Rudolph. Again, quarterback position is anyone's guess who will be the third best option in this draft. I think it will emerge to be Mason Rudolph. He seems like he has some of the best tools to be an NFL quarterback. He's got a big arm. He's shown the ability to roll out of the pocket. If he can start making those underneath throws, then he'll be a big-time prospect for this coming year. Now, obviously, I go to Oklahoma State. I watch him a lot. Obviously, I've got a lot of critiques, but I've also seen his upside. And this is a guy that developed extremely well, came in 2014, kind of saved the season for Oklahoma State, and then last year led the Pokes to a 10-win season. But talk about the fit with the Cardinals. This is a team, again, with an aging quarterback in Alex Smith that I don't know how much longer they're going to keep him as the quarterback of the future. I think they're going to need a new option in 2017. And again, it's really anyone's guess. There's a couple names that come to mind. A couple of them, Luke Falk, Chad Kelly, Mason Rudolph, I think are the next 3 up. like I said, I think Mason Rudolph's going to really emerge to be that guy. So at number 30, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting the defensive tackle out of Clemson, Carlos Watkins. So the Seahawks did address the defensive line in this past draft, drafting Jerron Reed, but I still think they're going to need help at the defensive tackle spot. This is a defense that has regressed a little bit over the last 2 years, and I think they're going to start trying to really plug those holes and get back to the dominance that they saw around 2013, 2014. So at number 31, I got the Cincinnati Bengals selecting the defensive tackle out of UCLA, Eddie Vanderdoes. So the original Notre Dame commit, and I believe former U.S. Army All-American player, is, I think, one of the most athletic defensive tackles in this draft. I think he's one of the lesser-known names, but could definitely emerge kind of as a Sheldon Rankins type rise in the 2017 NFL draft. The Bengals do still have a need at defensive tackle, even though they were able to fill that need with Andrew Billings. Not 100% sure how that's going to work out. That still will probably be a need in this coming draft, but the Bengals are one of the deepest teams in the NFL, so it's hard to project where they will be picking in the 2017 first round. I think it's a good fit. Again, I could see a meteoric type rise for Eddie Vanderdoes come next season, and it's just one of those guys that I think you're just going to have to watch out for in 2016, 2017 will be a very interesting player to watch. So at number 32, I got the Green Bay Packers selecting the outside linebacker / edge rusher out of Louisville, Devontae Fields. So it feels weird saying that Devontae Fields was ever gonna be a first-round draft pick. Again, at TCU, he had the talent. Just ran into a lot of problems with injury, suspension, that sort of thing. Ended up transferring to Louisville, and he's been honestly fantastic ever since then. I'm glad to see him back. The Packers do need a little bit of help with their pass rush. Did address the defensive line with Kenny Clark in this past draft, but they do still need a little bit of help with the pass rush spot. And again, Devontae Fields, a guy that has proven that he can come back from injury, hardship, all that stuff, and still be a quality edge rusher. So that pretty much concludes that video. Again, we are talking about the 2017 NFL Draft already, but it was just a fun little video to do. Again, this is something that I would love to hear you guys' comments about. You know, who you think will have a big time rise in the 2017 NFL Draft, your sleepers, who you think will get, or who you think is overrated, where you think teams are going to place, all that stuff. I love talking about that stuff in the comments, and I just love discussing sports with people that want to watch my videos. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll be getting back to my NBA draft scouting reports tomorrow, and continue the rest of them from there. But that's pretty much it. See ya.